My name is Neal Hoskins, and I work with WingedChariot, and we're a digital publisher. This is Tom Cooper, who many of you may know. He is the strategic leader for ICT in Lewisham, and Joe Barclay is the assistant head of the Conisbrough College in Lewisham. And we're going to tell you a story. And it's a story that's really about now. But first, like all stories, it starts a year ago. Do you remember back in the days when this was called not LWF, it was HHL? And actually it wasn't HHL 10 because Graham changed it, and it was back in 2009, I think, the last time we all met. And this was a time when we, as a publisher, we published books in translation. And we were looking at translation in a way of paper publisher. We took books from all over the world and translated them back into English. We had some beautiful artwork, some beautiful artists. And for example, this was the book that we brought to the conference in 2009. And we translated the story from Turkish. And we'd been doing some works in apps a bit with visuals. And we thought, hang on a minute, we're really good at translation. How about if we turn it in its head and do a truly multilingual picture book? Lots of languages in one book. We could never find a way to do that in paper. We loved language. We met with Tom because we knew from our time in paper publishing that a lot of schools are saying, could you publish a book in this language? Could you publish a book in this language, in Polish, in Albanian, in lots of different languages? And we said, well, actually, we can't keep publishing in all languages. But now there was a way to provide new materials in new languages and for modern languages and create this chain of materials and languages in schools. We also loved touch. We were coming to this as a new publisher, a publisher stroke developer. We liked the fact that you could simply touch a screen and there was wonderful colors and you had this gorgeous screen that you could play with just with your hands. And we knew we were entering a new era of natural user interface. We're flowing content with our hands across everywhere. And we wanted to really look at that because we didn't have to clutter the screen with windows and clicks and different drop-down boxes. You just had the pure content. There were new collaborations. We thought, well, if we could do this story, what if we did a special story for one school? What if we asked them about what languages that they had? How could we adapt this just for them? Because now we could, because we had digital stories. And also, there was the challenges. We knew this was going to be tough. We knew we were going to work with fonts we'd never worked before. We knew that finding how to work with the language of Tamil and Pashto in Photoshop was going to be tough. It was going to be a real challenge to make this work, but unless we made that challenge, unless we found the solution, then we wouldn't have overcome all the things in the project. So for us to find the solution was fantastic because we had to search the world for the people who owned the fonts. So anyway, chapter 2, over to you, Joe.
Okay, so the next part is the school's involvement in the story. Tom, the ICT strategic leader in Lewisham, approached me because Conisbrough College was the lead school, is the lead school in Lewisham for EAL. We have the most new EAL arrivals at our school. There are 57 different languages spoken in our school, and we've got excellent provision for EAL learners. So the partnering really started between WingedChariot, the borough and the school. We worked together to achieve the same end goal of the project. We also brought into the partnering, as a new BSF school, our ICT managed service to ensure smooth running of using the iPod touches within our school on the network, etc., and the EAL coordinator in the borough. Okay, so the next was our needs, school needs. As we have such a high intake of EAL students, we needed to ensure that we had a clear aim that the digital content would reach and stimulate the varying communities at our school. We've got to remember that many of our students arrive with little English and some with no schooling, no literacy. So the project was first to be trialled with a small withdrawal group led by an EAL teacher, Eliza. This group would included Tamil and Somali speakers, and at the start of the project, these students all really didn't communicate with the teacher or with each other in English, and they had a huge lack of confidence. So there were huge barriers to learning. Okay, what we had to do as a school in our partnering was to customise the digital content for our EAL school community. Red Apple needed to be customised to meet the different individual learner needs. So we met with WingedChariot, the EAL coordinator, to decide on producing digital content in 10 community languages, incorporating the most popular community languages within our school, and also keep the MFL content to later branch out the project. So you'll see on the next slide the different languages the story's produced in. So for example, if you look Somali, Pashto, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Polish, Albanian, etc., and French and Spanish. The idea of customising it was to keep up with the languages coming into the school and to meet the individual learner needs and unify students by language rather than dividing them. So the EAL vision. We wanted to engage our learners to build literacy skills, build their confidence together with the aim to read, understand gist, and later communicate in English. So it was all about digital content and not the device. We knew, of course, introducing iPod touches in school was going to have an amazing wow factor with our students, but through the content we could teach and personalise learning. So we were unifying them all with the language. Engaging the community. Therefore, by producing Red Apple in the top 10 community languages, we could unify our students. They could read, listen to the story in their own language, and then, of course, in English. They could all work at their own pace. They had earphones. They could read for gist, build vocabulary, gain an understanding. They listened to the story in English and then repeated the pronunciation of certain words, and they could refer back to it in their own language. So Red Apple was really the starting point for us to engage learners. It was the content that then drove the teacher and the learners to new lengths. So our teacher, Eliza, used the learning from the digital story to reproduce language, basic structure, and it was all content specific. There was already evidence of learning at a very early stage. She then went on to use StoryKit, which many of you, in fact probably all of you know about, where the students reused the basic structures in English, they recorded their voices, they recreated the story, and they then produced this back to the class. The final step of the learning from the digital content, the students produced a play. So they were acting out the language they'd learnt in English, and the teacher had used a variety of different applications to reinforce literacy and engage learners. So the impact we saw within our school on the EAL learners was huge. They all enjoyed their learning. It suited the different learning styles, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and there was a lot more confidence within the students because they started to communicate with each other in English and they could control their pace of learning. So the end goal was met by these students. And the play was recorded, it was played back to the students so they could see their achievements. So the next steps for us. We saw, of course, the impact on our EAL students. So we wanted to take this into MFL, being that we had the story in French and Spanish. So as you all know, year 8s, for example, there's a real dip in year 8 and they lose their confidence. A lot of them lose interest in learning a foreign language. So we took this into a lower ability set with poor literacy skills. We knew, again, there'd be the big wow factor with using an iPod touch, but we wanted the digital content to really be the driving force in their learning. And it was really interesting to see because students, they could control their learning. They usually didn't want to speak in French in the classroom. They were reading the story at their own speed. They had visual support. They were reproducing the language. They were speaking keywords. They were understanding gist. And by the end of those series of lessons, they could reproduce Even with the more complex grammar structures used in the story, they could reproduce bits of the story and start to link that into other learning. So it was really interesting to see the confidence levels of these students, and the feedback was excellent. And also, some of these students, with lower confidence, actually volunteered to speak at a small conference we had at school about the story Red Apple. So after Red Apple, we used the iPod touches within EAL, within MFL. We've downloaded various apps. For example, iTranslate to use with the internet, lots of different programs, all highly engaging for our learners. But the challenges that we've had, we've identified a definite need for more language-based apps for teaching and learning, and we have been restricted by internet, as we can only use the iPod touches with the guest wireless system. So it's been a bit of a long process to set them up on Wi-Fi. So at the moment, our IT managed service is trying to find a better solution for this. And as a school, we want to move to cloud-based, where every student can access digital content for 24/7 learning.
Of course, this fits into a plan for the future for Lewisham. It's not just a standing point of working with one partner. We're definitely looking towards creating content. We're looking towards creating content with our community. And what is that community that we're looking to create content with? The community is young people at the centre of it. But we mustn't forget the teachers. We mustn't forget parents. And often we miss commercial providers as a key partner. Together, we work in a partnering situation to actually meet and drive on these needs for young people. We need to be clear with the vision of what we're going to do. We need to be creating customized solutions. We talked about one customized solution, but we really need to make sure that this is part of a continuum around personalized learning. It's about being accessible on whatever the device is, and I'll talk about the cloud in a minute. But everything needs to be available wherever you are. So it's a combination of bringing together young people's social networking skills, local use of local networks, in other words, the networks that they get from schools and their uploads. It needs to have all this in one place in the cloud in order for young people, parents, and our customized solution with our partners to be able to deliver together. We need to be moving away from one device. We need to be moving into device-independent computing. We need to be thinking about how we access, that every pupil has access to a device. It shouldn't matter what that device is. We should be able to access all this work, whether it's a mobile phone, an iTouch, an iPad, a Google Android, whatever that device is, or even a traditional computer. We need to make sure that everything is available wherever that pupil is. We need to bring together a convergence of technology. We need to be, everything should be moving towards independent learning. And we need to be embracing technology, and everybody should be confident.
So, we're 2011, here we are. We've made a set of apps as a publisher. But we just scratched the surface, really. We had the feedback from the school, we saw what the interests were, and we also saw the difficulties. There's a big elephant in this room today, and it's called funding and investment in the future. And everyone knows it's there, and I may be naive to bring it out the cupboard now, but I'm shocked by the way that I've seen local authorities being dragged, even in minus in their budgets in year. And it's really hard. As a new developer, you're trying to do things, you're looking for support. But we're lucky. We found some support from the Kallis Gulbenkian Foundation, and we're going to work with IFBook, a new Think and Do charity about the future of the book. The Kallis Gulbenkian Foundation is a foundation set up by a man who was a British citizen, lived in France, was Armenian by birth, and ended up his life settling in Portugal, a great supporter of people, whoever they are, in whatever country. So, this year, we're going to have more schools, we're going to have the project More Stories, we're going to have 3 ALAs, 6 schools, and all looking at stories in multilingual applications. We're going to look at news stories. We're going to look at classic tales. We're going to tell Cinderella, for example, using animals, maybe with a new artist drawing the illustrations and working with the children. We're going to look at more play. We know, we feel there's something inside here with playing with words, with playing with languages. That's the exciting little flame that's lit within our little company of where we're developing. We want to have beautiful content everywhere. We want to have good curated content with good artists, good writers, but we want to be accessed from wherever you are, with whatever device. We love our iPads, but we're not just about iPads. The iPad was the first solution that worked for us. It's powerful enough to power the great pictures and colors, but it's not everything. We'll have to do lots of fast demo prototyping. We have a great relationship now with a secondary school, with people there, with students, with teachers. We're going to have to come up with ideas, throw them into school, have them accessed by web apps, and then see what the comments are, see how to work forward, but give them maybe 15 solutions to a problem and see which one works. It's going to be a real challenge, this, but we're all going to work together on it. Here's a concept of something we're interested in called word touch. This is just a visual concept that we're going to look at this year. So here's one of our picture books, and we're going to look at the text part for this year. We're going to look, because a lot of the comments back then, how about if I could change language within the story? How about if I could press a word and then get into another language? So if you press on birthday, you've got the word. Then you press on the word again. You've got birthday, and you've got some other things to do. Perhaps you'd like to translate it. So you can translate it. And then you can go further in again. You can play with it. You can know more. You can listen to it. We don't know if this is going to work. We have a feeling there's a lot in there of playing and pushing and having fun with words. Then you can know more about the word. Then you can tap again, and you're back out. So you've gone in for a bit. You've looked at something, and then you can come out. But you can go in layers, in levels. I love this. Look at this. Anyone guess when this device was prototyped and invented? Anyone know when this came out? Or no, I don't think it ever came out. It's the Dynabook. Does it remind you of something a lot of you have got in your hands today? It's the Dynabook, invented and put together by Alan Kay in 1974. We have these devices. I love quotes by Alan Kay. I mean, he was one of the masters and the inventors of the whole graphical user interface. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. The best way to predict the future is to invent it. You can really have a go here. Everyone can have a go. We can all contribute to what is the future. For us, it's languages and reading. That's our bit. That's what we'll be able to do. And I like this quote. Because stories is what we're all made of. This is from The Tempest, I think. The power of stories. We all know the power of stories. We all have stories. In fact, I think sometimes when we go wrong as personal or people is when we don't have a story anymore. Anyway.
Collaborate.
Create.
Curate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the three people up on the stage? I'll try and get some evenness into this again. Let's start in this segment here. Anybody here? No? Yes? Next segment? Next segment? Next one? Right at the back in the middle. Can we get a mic across there? Thank you.
I just wanted to find out if there would be a possibility to collaborate with other people who are struggling with the issues of mother tongue and other tongues at pre-primary level with yourselves in other languages other than the ones that you've mentioned, Xhosa, Zulu, Pedi.
The answer is yes. You've got on there our Twitter leads that were on the presentation. They'll be available. Mine's at Tom H. Cooper, and more than happy to collaborate. That's how we develop and how we make things better. by working together in partnership. And whoever those people in the community, we benefit from the collaboration, and anything that we've got to offer, we will work and share with you.